Good evening, all of you. Yes, Sunny, how are you? Welcome to RivJNIT program. Welcome to the module PLSQL. So why you are all joining late? Only Sunny and Akshay were there from the beginning. Sujani, Sonal, and Akshay. Shit. Yes. All of you, yes, Akshay Mahinder. Good evening again. So what is the reason all are not joined today? Maybe still you are all spending in the Josh of Raksha Bandhan, right? Fine. So far we had a discussion on different topics of PLSQL. In the last class we concluded the session with an objective of understanding dynamic SQL. We are moving into the concept of how you can design the PLSQL code, like what you need to consider when you are writing the program using PLSQL programming constructs. So those are all simply design considerations for PLSQL code. It is not completely a new topic technically, but it gives a clear idea how efficiently you can write a program and what are the things you need to take into consideration while you are writing the program of PLSQL. So the design considerations in the sense, like programmatically, while you are writing a program, what are the things you need to take into consideration? Like while you are designing a PLSQL code block with certain standardized names of different variables by following the proper conventions for naming the variables, and wherever it is required, dividing the application into number of subprograms as like modulars. Fine. So those are all actually different ways we are going to explore about the PLSQL code blocks. So that is the one objective, but by considering many of our batchmates today are not available, fine, even though we will move forward. So create standard constants and exceptions where we need to use constants and exceptions programmatically instead of the variables, where you should go for constants declaration, and wherever you require to write a program with some exception handling techniques, and write and call local subprograms. Like you know what is subprogram? It can be a function or a procedure. So how to write a subprogram, local subprograms, and providing the privileges to the users while users are calling the or controlling the runtime privileges of subprograms. So what is autonomous transaction? Then understanding certain parameters using ncopy hints. Parallel enabling is what for optimization. And session-wise PLSQL results cache, how you can store the data temporarily. So using deterministic class with functions and returning class with getting the data from the DML statements. So there are many objectives, but all objectives are small in result, and application-wise how you can write we shall discuss. So out of all the objectives, one we have taken as standardizing constants and exceptions using local subprograms, controlling the runtime privileges of a subprogram, and performing autonomous transactions. So these are all the first objectives of our session. Fine. So I want to brief you all in a simple terms what is actually the lesson agenda. So you may write a program as a programmer or as a developer. You will follow certain habits of writing the programs. So those are all actually the programmer point of view. The programmer may write a program with certain standardized model. That will be different from other programmers also, right? So other programmer may write in a different style, and their program result also can be the same, like programmer 1, programmer 2, programmer 3, programmer 4. But when you are following certain standards to define the program approach, how you can follow certain standardized way of designing the program or writing the program. So that is design considerations of PLSQL code. So instead of writing as we like, instead of writing by following our own standard, what are the best way, what are the technically the standards you are supposed to follow while you are designing the code of PLSQL. So whatever you are aware, those only will be discussed again, like what is function, again the function related feature we will discuss, but we will add some more features to the function approach, and what is a procedure, and again how to add more features to the procedure will be the part of our today's discussion. Can I know from all of you? I hope you all have understood what I shared with you all. Everyone, all of you. Fine. So, nothing, most of the content is not new, but some of the features will add to the existing knowledge of our previous subject. So, you are reinvesting your existing skills to understand more additional things. Okay, so that is actually the concept. So in this, constant and exceptions are typically implemented using a bodiless package, that is a package specification, right? Generally when you write a program with certain constants and exceptions, you will write without a package structure, like you may write it with only specifications, because package, what are the things part of the package? Specification, package, body. So two different ways, right? So you may specify a procedure, you can specify a function within the package, then you will define the procedure and function inside the body of the package. Same here, when you are writing, constant and exceptions are implemented using a bodiless package, that is in a package specification section. Standardizing helps to develop programs that are consistent without any mismatch or imbalance, and that, like standardization, reusability of the code, so promote a higher degree of the code reuse. So I have developed some part of the program. So the program is a tax calculator. Why should I develop this program again and again when it is able to calculate the tax? I can call it as and when I require, I can use in my application, right? So this tax calculation is nothing but a code where the tax can be calculated. I will use this code into n number of applications as and when it is needed. So that you can analyze here, I have drawn a structure. So this you can consider as application 1. The second one can be another application, and the tax calculation is a package or a modular. So as and when I need it, I will call this tax module. Ease of code maintenance, implement company standards across entire applications. So that is actually the standardization. Start with standardization of exception names and constant definitions. Point taken. Company standards, in the sense, while you are writing or developing any solution, you better to follow the requirements modeling of the company, because the PLSQL solutions can be given to different business domains. It is not specific to e-commerce application, it is not specific to any education portal, it is not specific to any other category of the portals or any applications. So you can give the specifications according to the business requirements of the organization. So that is one point here. A small concept, standardizing exceptions. You are aware of what is exception and you are aware of how to handle exception. In this you can see the package name is error package. Simple package name is error package. It is not complete subject, it is only some extent of the theoretical approach, so that you can easily analyze. So the slide is containing some code block. The code block is a specification of the package definition. So package is error package. In this you have defined EFK error. What is EFK error? That you define a particular variable as your exception type, and sequence number error is also exception type. So you define some pragma exception init with the error numbers relevant to the specified error variables. So then with all other specifications, the particular package is being completed. Now this is a simple code block Fine. Right. So when you are going to use this for any way of handling the exception, this block can be handled with certain exception specifications, and you are following the standards of defining the exceptions. Where you have written these exceptions, you have written in the package specification body. Okay. So defined in the package specifications, not in the package body. Point taken. Error handling package that includes all names of the programmer defined exceptions in the application. So you are not defining body of the package. Fine, all of you. Now in this we shall see some more things to analyze, not only this part. I want to share some more things. So writing a subprogram for common exception handling is display error based on the SQL code or SQL error message values for exceptions. You can display errors based on the type of a exception raised. The exception can be of the SQL code. Exception can be of SQL error message. These two we had a discussion in exception section, right? Track runtime errors easily by using parameters in your code. What are the runtime errors? Why do we need to capture the runtime errors? The procedure in which the error occurred, that I can find. And second thing, the location of the error number, where in which line the error generated. And I can raise the errors using the error list, that is a stack trace. Error 1, error 2, error 3, error 4, error 5. Likewise, errors will be displayed in a stacked order, one after one. So, with the third argument set to true. So, while you are defining this particular property, raise error exception, you can make the property as true. So that I am going to share with you all. So I request you all to analyze this part also. So while you are defining this, I am sharing how to make this property set to true. So raise application error. So that application error. So error property you can set to third argument. If you make it, the trace related error messages will be displayed. Can I know from all of you? It is only some extent theoretical, and we will discuss practically in the coming stage of the discussion. Okay? All of you, please respond. Fine. So, standardizing constants. Constant is what? The value which you don't want to get any change in any stage of the program execution. That is the reason you will make it as a constant keyword. So the value whatever you are storing here, that should not be get any changes. But for programs that use local variables, use values should not change. So I want to define some values to the variables where those values I don't want to get any change in the program execution. That is the first objective of the constants. Okay, so what is the need of the constant? You have a clear idea in a program if the value will not be gets any change. So convert the variables to constant to reduce maintenance and debugging, because variable when you declare instead of a constant, that has to be bound to the values of the variables at runtime, or before the runtime you have to bind it. But if you make it as a constant in a particular program, the value and the variable will always hold the same. So it cannot be modified even in any executable block. So debugging is also easy. Create one centralized package specifications and place all constants in it. That is one standardized approach. Instead of declaring different constants in different areas. So create or replace package constant. So you can see a code block here. The package constant it is. What is the package name? Create or replace package. Constant package is the package name. So in the package we have some constant variables. One is order received is a constant variable, and order shipped is a constant variable, and minimum salary is a constant variable. So if you look into this, order received is a short form of OR. Okay, order shipped is OS. So you can use a constant these two that if it is the variable order received, the value will be OR. If it is the order shipment, that is OS, minimum salary is 9,000. If you define like this, you can place this constant somewhere in your code block and you can refer it wherever it is required. That I am going to share with you where you can define that particular code block. Give me 1 minute. I am going to show the small code block to you all to understand the same. Okay. So how you can refer that constant. So I am sharing that concept to you all. So I wrote a statement as begin here. One after one, these statement blocks, whatever I am typing, you please observe. Update employees is a statement. Salary equal to salary plus some value as 200 I am typing here. And then I want to call that particular package. So the package how you will call and how you will check is the one I am going to explain to you. So now if you look into this, and this is the one as end I have to mention. So in this package, there you have minimum salary. That was we mentioned as 500. So that you recall, please recall that concept. So if you recall the previous package name, so the constant value here you can consider it as a 500 is the value. This 500 is salary less than the constant package dot C underscore minimum salary. The minimum salary is 500 we mentioned in that particular package. Point taken. So how you are referencing the constant, you made all the constants as a group. But when you are updating in a body specification, you are referencing that particular variable. Can I know from all of you? Is it clear to you all? So this is the one. So minimum salary as 500 or 900, here it is 900, but I explained as well 500. So I want to brief you all what it is actually. So whoever have joined again, Aditya, Akshay Mahinder, Panda Sugyani, Sonal, Sunny and all others, Andheri West Center. So it is a concept of understanding how efficiently you can write a PLSQL code block. That is the one concept we are discussing. Okay. Fine. So now, well-known thing I am sharing with you. Yes, got it. Akshay Mahinder. So well-known thing in a sense, you can consider that it is a procedure. Okay. The procedure or a function defined at the end of the declarative section in a subprogram. So where you are writing to, so you can recall our concept of what we had a discussion. So declarative section from where you will write. So procedure started, procedure name, and procedure takes an argument of the employee number, where employee is the variable, is employee data type, employee table row type data type. Function is tax. So where is the tax? Actually, when you are calling function tax, it takes an argument and return the number. So what it returns? It returns the calculation of the salary with 0.825. So select star into V employee from employees where employee equal to the PID. Then it has to display the tax of that particular employee salary. It's a combination. Then execute employee salary with 100. So now I want to share this program subjectively. Again I want to explain this to you all. 1 minute. I'm sharing the screen. Fine. You can see here. Select star into a variable from employees where employee ID equal to whatever you pass. That is one body statement. Okay. In this you can see there is a procedure. The procedure where the procedure is ended, that I request you all to analyze. The procedure employee salary is the procedure name. It takes an ID of the employee, and the procedure has a variable as its member. One is variable, and procedure has a function as its member. The function name is tax. What the role of the function? The function takes a variable of varchar2 data type and returns after calculation of the salary with some calculation of 0.825. That is a tax rate. So it returns the tax value. Fine. Select star into v underscore employee where you created v underscore employee. So employee table entire row type you are taking as a variable. From employees where employee equal to PID, where you will enter the PID, that will be taken. Okay. We are calling employee salary variable. That you will pass 100. That 100 will be copied in PID. That PID you are passing as employee ID here. Then at the time of displaying, it displays entire data of the tax of v underscore employee dot salary. So it is going to display the employee dot salary value. Point taken. So you are going to supply some value, but v employee is the variable of data type of the row type. That particular table of the row type salary value only will be displayed. So that is a simple statement when it is being inserted into this particular table. Fine. Select star into v underscore employee. That particular value will be inserted, and the entire data will be copied into this particular variable. In this variable, all entire row value will be available. So from there you are taking only salary value, right? In this local subprogram, in the sense you have written the function as a part of your procedure that you please try to analyze here. Function you have written as part of its procedure body. Point taken. Function is a member in this particular procedure. All of you, please respond if it is clear to you all. This is a local subprogram. So why we have written that local subprogram? There is an advantage of defining a particular subprogram inside another subprogram. So I am just making this to be executed. So if the function is existing, create or replace procedure. Okay. So create or replace procedure, why I have used? In case if it is already created, it can be overwritten with the previous one. So now if I call that, what I am calling? Employee salary I am calling. So my control directly goes to this procedure first. So this value 100 will be copied into my PID. So that would be taken. Then the procedure work will start. How the procedure work will start? The procedure has a variable. The variable takes the entire row of the employee table. So employees table row type. So the variable is ready. So that is binding process of the parsing. Then the function specifications will be taken and function specifications will be created somewhere else. Then the program of the procedure starts. Select star into a variable. So it is the employee row type variable will be initialized by reading the data of the particular employee, whoever the data you passed. So ended employee data will be copied into the v underscore variable. Then we are displaying by calling the tax variable. Where is the tax here? Tax of employee salary. So tax you are calling. This is the calling process. So tax you are calling by passing employee salary of this row. So now I want to share this example. Instead of directly showing this, I want to share a small concept here. Select star from employees. where ID equal to employee ID equal to underscore ID equal to 100. So this record will be retrieved. So this is the entire record of the employee table, right? So this record I am taking, I want to copy in one Excel sheet to make it much more clear. So this I copied here. Okay. This is going to be copied. Meanwhile, I want to take this program. Okay. This program also I want to copy by creating a text box. Okay. In this text box, I want to copy my program. I will explain the reason why I copied it. Now I want to minimize this to explain the workflow of this, how it works. So this is the program. Now in this you have one row, the procedure how you are calling. The procedure employee salary, when you call, it takes a value. So that you please identify here. That part I want to cut from here, I want to place it here. Now you are calling the procedure. One after one you please analyze the workflow. This procedure will be called. To send a value 100, that particular 100 will be sent to this variable. Okay, the variable is PID. Then this PID, whatever the value you supplied, that will be taken and copied in the variable. Then it declares a variable here, that you please observe. The variable is the employee V employee. Now what is there in the V employee? Now you can analyze what is there in the V employee. This is the entire row is the V employee. Can I know from all of you? Till this extent, is it clear? So this is the variable V employee has. Then it identifies this is the function block. So this function block will be selected and it will be identified as this is the block. So function block is available. That block also I want to make it clear to you all, as this is the function block is available. As you can consider, it is a block. Okay. The block is a function. Now this function block is separately available in the memory for some time. Now this is the function block. So you can consider it is a tax block. This is actually the flow of execution. Now when this function block is existing, then it reads to this stage. Select star into V underscore employee. So it will be copied into the variable of entire row. This entire row will be copied into the variable. Now variable has all values, right? So all values are there in the variable. Then where employee equal to PID. If you supply 100, that will be the PID here. Now then at the time we are displaying, you are calling the tax module. So that is tax of V underscore employee dot salary. So now only here you are required to observe. V underscore V dot salary is this salary it is targeting. Okay, it is targeting to 2400. For that it is calling the tax module. That also you please observe here how it is calling the tax module. So it has called the tax module. Then it is calculating the tax and returning the value back. So return type you mentioned, there you have mentioned the return number is. So when it is returning the number that you are displaying, this is the tax of return value. So this is the life cycle. Programmatically I explained the life cycle, but when you consider the code block here, you have written one block inside another block. So that is a local subprogram. Local subprogram in the sense, written one program in the body of another program. So that is, a function is a member in a procedure. Can I know from all of you? I hope you all have understood. It's very important because that's the way how you can combine one block inside another block. So I have given the complete, got it, Akshay, very good Akshay. So all have given the right response. Thank you all. So generally, while you are working, you are a programmer. So consider that you are a definer. So that is the definer in the sense, you are writing this procedure, function, or you are writing trigger, you are writing some different type of PLSQL code blocks. Okay, so at this stage you can consider you are a designer. So obviously you are the owner of this, right? So as you are a owner, then I am the user using that particular code block what you have provided, right? As a owner, when you allow the user to use these code blocks, I have to use this code block, right? When I am using this code block, I have certain rights, not like you. I will have different rights, right? Right. So my rights are different, your rights are different. So definer rights. Program execute with the privileges of the creating user, because you have a complete privilege, so that according to that the program will be executed. So that is user privilege, developer privilege. Fine. But the same thing we are not sure that can be executed by user, because if the user doesn't have a privilege, he cannot do it. So that is one more point you please analyze. It may be possible or it may be not possible based on the rights. User does not require privileges on underlying objects that the procedure accesses. User requires privilege only to execute a procedure. So we have written one function inside a procedure, but you don't have a executable privileges for function, but you have privilege for executing procedure. So then procedure can be executed. So that is the way, the advantage with the definer right. But invoker rights, user requires privileges on the underlying objects that the procedure access. So as a user, if you want to access that, you should have a privilege to access a function written inside a procedure. So that is the difference. I request you all to analyze. As a procedure designer, even if I don't have a definition or complete privilege to define a function inside a procedure, I can do it. But as a user, if I don't have a privilege to use a function defined inside a procedure, that I cannot invoke it. So that is the reason this point is important. So you please remember this. True or false, questions can be come from there. Definer, second point is not understood. Yes, Akshay, I will share it to you. Definer, second point. See, in the previous example, I want to take you to the back to the whole screen. If you look into this example, we define function inside a procedure. Okay, that you please observe. I selected the function inside a procedure. I don't have a privilege to define some functions or to execute some functions, as I am a definer. But the function I am not calling directly, I am calling a procedure directly, so the function can be indirectly called by the procedure. So that is allowed. But as a user, when you are using this, you should have a privilege to use even function also. That is a user privilege, nothing but invoker privilege or invoker right. So Akshay Mahinder, can I know from you please? Fine, Akshay. So how you can provide? So you can provide invoker right, setting authentication ID to current user. So only the thing, a small change you can provide. In case if the privilege is not there, you can change the privilege by providing this particular option. So how you can change the privilege of the user here? The same, create or replace procedure, add department. There you can provide authentication ID is current user. Then the user can add that particular department. Can I know from you please? Simple statement, you can add a small statement of defining the right to a invoker. Fine. So authentication ID, current user. So where you need to write? You need to write next of the procedure. Then the procedure can have any body. So invoker right can be defined. Otherwise, definer will have a right to define anything only if the definer has a privilege on a procedure, where the definer may not have the function privilege which you mentioned inside the procedure is allowed. but invoker should have a privilege to invoke a function inside a procedure. If you don't have a privilege to invoke a function which you define inside a procedure, is not allowed. But at the time when you are defining, you can allow the invoker with certain rights. So this is the right. Fine. Second thing, when used with standalone functions, procedures or packages, names used in queries, DML, native dynamic SQL and DBMS SQL packages are resolved in the invoker schema. So generally, when you are writing some PLSQL programs, you need to consider the standard way of defining functions, procedures or packages with the general names what you require to use. Those only you should follow, and when you are calling to other packages, functions and procedures are resolved in the definer schema. So better always in the definer schema, you to maximum you can avoid the restrictions to the invokers. So that is one more point. All of you? Fine. Any questions? Autonomous transaction. Autonomous transaction is actually, yes, Sunny, all clear. Very good, Sunny. Autonomous transaction is are independent transactions started by another main transaction. I will explain what is you are making as a autonomous transaction. First you observe that here. This is the main transaction. The transaction name is procedure 1. What is transaction name is statement in database management system which performs certain operations in the database, can be insert, delete or update or related to any such type of operation can be considered as a transaction. Okay. Now, autonomous transaction, when you define, a transaction can be with multiple statements, will work like a logical unit. Fine. So, number of statements, if you define it as a single program, it can be called as autonomous unit. But what is the autonomous unit or autonomous transaction unit role? So you can see our independent transaction started by another main transaction. What is another main is the one. If you look into this, this is the procedure 1. This procedure 1 has many different instructions. It is a logical unit. It has a variable, it has a variable initialization and it has a count operation for certain modifications. Then it is going to perform insert operation. Then it is calling the procedure 2. So where is that procedure 2? The procedure 2 is a separate procedure which is not part of this. Okay. So that is the independent transaction, autonomous transaction. It is not dependent on anything else here. So then you can write delete statements, commit statement and procedure. But what it is doing? It is calling another procedure for its continuation of the work. So autonomous is the one where it is an independent transaction where it doesn't depend on any other transaction for its existence. Point taken? All of you? I will share an example also. Yes, Akshay. Okay, fine. Autonomous transaction is the independent one which doesn't depend on any other transaction or any other transaction, and the main transaction will call the other transaction. So you can specify using pragma autonomous transaction. So when you write it as pragma autonomous transaction, then the autonomous transaction can be exited as an independent one. Fine. So what is the role of the pragma autonomous transaction? Pragma autonomous underscore transaction. So it instructs the PLSQL compiler to make the routines of this PLSQL blocks as to exist as independent. So that will give a clear specification to the compiler that I am an independent program block. Another program is calling me, so the main transaction is calling autonomous transaction. Point taken. So what is autonomous transaction features? Are independent of the main transaction. Suspend the calling transaction until the autonomous transactions are completed. Remaining work will be stopped. Function call generally are not nested transactions, is a separate one. Do not be roll back in the main transaction. Rollback is a separate one, never be rolled back. Enable the changes to become visible to other transactions upon a commit. So only when the transaction is completely committed, then only it would be visible. Are started and ended by individual subprograms, are not by nested or any anonymous PLSQL or anonymous PLSQL blocks. Nested subprograms is the one which we have identified, writing one subprogram inside another one. It is not the nested one event. Point taken. So I am sharing a small example here, autonomous transaction example. So there are two tables which you are supposed to create here. One is the table usage. One is the table transaction. Create or replace procedure log usage. The procedure name is log usage. There you made this procedure as pragma autonomous transaction, means it is going to be an independent one. Okay. Table is of two different tables you created. That is a complete different code. That slash symbol is representing this is statement 1, this is statement 2, and this is statement 3. So that likewise you can use slash to run many statements one after one. So the procedure first block role is to insert into usage table, that is the first table, card ID and the location from where the user has used this, then it is going to commit it. So this procedure will be closed here. So that I request you to analyze here. This procedure is closed. Okay. Then you create or replace procedure bank transaction. It is taking a card number, is taking a location number to insert into tax. What is tax? That is another table. Values is 9001 and 1000. Log usage. Then log usage is actually it is taking card number and location. Point taken, card number and location. What is log usage here? This log usage is your procedure. Bank transaction is using the procedure called log usage. So by passing what? Card number and by passing location. Card number will be copied here, location will be copied in the variable, then it will copy the values into the usage table. So execute bank transaction means what you are executing? You are executing only your procedure, one procedure. This procedure is calling another procedure, that is log usage. Where is that log usage? This is the log usage procedure. Point taken, all of you. Calling one procedure with another procedure is autonomous transaction. The procedure which is existing as independent, that is called as autonomous transaction. Can I know from all of you? Any questions? I'm sharing this example to you so that we can move forward. Easily you can understand. Usage table. I'm checking whether the table is existing or not. It is not a new topic. All the things are the advanced of this. So usage table is existing. So what I want to do, I want to truncate this table. Truncate usage. Okay. Truncate table usage. Means I don't want to keep anything in this table truncated. Same manner, I want to remove the transaction table also. This table also I don't want. I want to remove the content from the table. So that is transaction table. So some data is there. This also I don't want to have. I want to remove this table also. Table is existing, only the data I am removing. So truncate table, transaction. So both the tables have been truncated. Now this code block I don't need. Okay. I want to copy in a different area instead of typing next time. I copied. So now here I am going to take this code block. This code block I request you all to analyze. One procedure is ended here. This is another procedure. This slash symbol you can write all at a time in a single program. But if you look into this, log usage is a different procedure. And that is going to call another procedure, that is log usage, by calling by bank transaction. That is the reason all we are combining in a single step. We shall create all. Okay. Now I am going to take this block. I don't want to execute at this stage. So last block only I am not copying. This one I am copying. Okay. This is the log usage procedure, and insert the data into the usage table. That usage table you can see, and replace procedure bank transaction. When you call the bank transaction, that is inserting the values of 9001 and 1000, and calling log usage also to copy the data of card number what you provided as 50 and location is 2000. So both I am going to execute at a time. Procedures created. Both procedures have been created. That you please observe. Procedure created, procedure created. Now when I call this execute, bank transaction will be called. 50 will be called into, copied into card number. 2000 will be copied into the location number. Then it insert the values by calling procedure log usage and copies to card number and location number. Then Pragma autonomous transaction. This you made it as an independent one. Then that values will be inserted into the usage table. Okay. One is transaction table should be inserted, and usage table also should be inserted with this executable slot. So that I am going to execute now. Execute bank transaction 50 to 100. Procedure completed successfully. Now what are the two tables I need? I need these two tables, select star from usage and select star from transaction. So the two tables data I am going to take. Now I want to execute one after one. So I want to remove this. So 50 to 100, 2000, and transaction you can see the 9001 and 1000. All of you please respond. Is there a cyclic order? If you can study this, it gives a clear idea to you all. Yes, Akshay. Akshay responded as he understood this. Okay. Any more questions? All of you, please respond. If you have any question, you can ask me. Fine. So now we shall move forward for analyzing more things. Okay. Using no copy hint and the parallel enable hint, the cross session PLSQL function result cache, and the deterministic clause. What is these three things we'll discuss? Okay. So I'll explain what is no copy hint, what the role of the no copy hint. It is subjectively where you can use and not use. Using the no copy hint. It is not a big challenge. It's a specification subject only. Only the word is no copy. You can recall a concept of understanding in, out, in and out in the procedures. Okay. So allow the PLSQL compiler to pass out parameter and in-out parameters by reference rather than by value. Fine. Generally, in, out are the two different ways: in, out, in and out. So three different ways totally. This is for the purpose of passing a value out from the procedure, passing a value into the procedure, performing in and out of the passing parameters to the procedure. So that time, if you use no copy, that particular no copy specification tells to the compiler just to ignore that particular value, not to be indexed or not to be copied. Point taken. So compiler ignores the no copy hint. When the compiler ignores the no copy hint, that value of that particular parameter in the reference that taken as a value. So parameter by reference rather than by value. So instead of passing this as a value, it takes it as a reference. That is only the difference between value type, reference type of your programming language type passing. So the same thing comes into the objective here. So generally, when you are using in and out parameters, if I have a variable that I am writing as the variable A and variable B, so that I just want to make it clear to you. So this is my variable and I want to mention the name of the variable as A here. So this is a variable A. This is the variable B, right? So when you are passing a value without no copy, if you pass 10 from here somewhere to one particular place, if I pass 100, this 100 will be copied as a separate copy and this same 100 will be copied as a separate copy. So that is called as value type copy. Okay. But instead of that, if you place 100 as a single variable, so I am writing here as this is the 100 as the value. So both will refer the same value 100. So that is the difference between no copy without no copy. Can I know from all of you? Instead of having two different 100 as the copy, it always refers the location where actually the 100 is available. So if you recall the concept of value type and reference types, so that is the one type is the reference type. All of you, please respond. Please respond, all of you. Yes. Who just joined? Rohan Bhatia, Shambhajar Center. Okay. And this is another concept called parallel enable hint. This you can use in the syntax for declaring a function. So if you consider that can be used in function as an optimization hint. What is optimization? You know, how efficiently the function is working. In optimum time, how function is completing its assigned task. You want to monitor it. So that is optimization. Optimization is a process of checking the well-formedness of the function. Indicates that a function can be used in a parallelized query or parallelized DML statement. So that you think generally, what is parallelism? Parallelism is making the execution of the particular statement or a group of statements. At the same time, you want to execute multiple instructions. So that is called as a threading concept in programming. Same manner, here you want to enable the parallelism using a property parallel enable. So when you write it a function with parallel enable, function instructions, generally how the function instructions runs, I will explain. Now this is the one you can consider that this is the CPU. So when you are sending the instructions to the CPU, the instructions will be sent to the CPU one after one, right? So the CPU cannot handle all the instructions at a time. Even instructions will run in a particular order one after one. So this is the CPU. So I am writing this the block as instruction 1. I want to mention small example here. You can consider that this is the instruction 1, then instruction 2, instruction 3. So I am writing here as this the instruction 1, instruction 2 and instruction 3. Right. 3 are moving in a particular order, whether it is first or second doesn't matter. But if you enable parallel enable, what will happen, you know, these 3 instructions may run parallelly. How that will be, you know, one instruction and second instruction and third instruction. So which will get the choice of the CPU first, that can be executed first. And it may can get the execution choice first, or it may can get the execution choice first. So parallelism, every instruction will have the same privilege. But in sequential, one after one only the execution can take place. Point taken. So the CPU is the one where all instructions can get executed in this particular area of the execution. All of you please respond. Is it clear to you all? That is parallel enable. Resulted nothing, but you can easily experience it. What is a parallel enable? Enabling result cache for a function. What is enabling result cache for a function? You know how to write a function, right? But what is the advantage? So leaving G from the beginning, we have SQL cross-session functions. That is, a function can be captured in a memory called caching memory. In that caching mechanism, that you want to store some amount of the function. So result of the PLSQL function in a shared global area, that is called as SGA, is a memory block. So programmable area, shared memory area, global area, shared global area is called as a memory block where architecturally the PLSQL engine handles. In that particular area, you want to store some amount of the function result. So this result cache class, the function declaration and function definition include the relies on is working on an employee table, relies on employee. Function is dependent on department table. So you can write that relies on department. So that is the one actually result cache. Fine. You can see how that result cache can be defined. It is a very simple statement. Result cache relies on employee. So that is only the statement you can write. Varchar data type value and select hide date into a variable from HR.employees where employee equal to whatever the value you supplied. Return the hide date into the converted value. But what you have written in this result underscore cache relies on employees. Allow you to please respond. Any questions? Fine. Returning class. Returning class is, got it, Akshay Mahendra. See, these are all actually not the new things, but these are all actually more rich programming approach to define a code constructs in your PLSQL program block to enhance the programmability or to consider what other ways you can define the program efficiently. So that is program considerations for defining the PLSQL code. So whether it is a function or a procedure or inline function or a procedure, so what are the code conventions you should follow? That is the one we are discussing. At the same time, what PLSQL is offering to make this type of certain extent how you can efficiently write the program block. Returning class improves performance by returning column values with insert, update and delete statements. Eliminate the need of select statement. So returning class eliminate the need of select statement. Okay. So we did not use select here, that you please observe, which is highlighted as returning. Update salary is the procedure name. Okay. That takes employee ID as the number. You have a variable as vname, you have a salary as new salary. So both have been taken as the data type of the same columns existing in the same table. Update employee salary equal to salary into 1.1 where employee equal to the ID what you supply. What you supply, that will be the value here, right? The both are same here. This is the value and this is the value. Returning. So generally select last name salary into this. That is the way you write. But you are not writing in such a way now. You are using returning class. Using returning class, you can apply the required information to your SQL operation. Right? That is returning the values to be copied into the variables. What are the variables? Last name and salary variables into last name and new salary. Point taken. Last name underscore name or comma salary is the column data into v underscore name and v underscore new underscore salary are my variables. So into the variables it is returning the data. Point taken. So please observe that these variables are here. Any questions? Got it. Akshay responded. Any more questions? Fine. More other things we shall see. Returning class I completed. I want to explain bulk binding. Bulk binding is actually in Oracle server, it uses two engines to run the PLSQL blocks and subprograms. One is runtime engine, one is SQL engine. Two different ways it actually works. So that is the one you please analyze here. Binds whole array of values in a single operation rather than using a loop to perform. So fetch, insert, update and delete operation multiple times. What is that process here? You have written a PLSQL block. Okay. PLSQL runtime engine handles this particular block. So procedural statement executor is one particular compiler. SQL statement executor is another compiler. So you have two different things. One is PLSQL runtime engines. One is SQL engine where all SQL statements can be evaluated and executed. So PLSQL runtime engine, SQL engine, two different engines are available in your Oracle 11g. So when you are using these two, so what is PLSQL engine role? It runs all your procedural statements. You define PLSQL procedural statements. SQL statements, like all general statements, can be parsed and executed by the SQL executor. Fine. So that is the difference between these two. Bulk binding. So the role of bulk binding is you want to combine the content of SQL engine, the content of PLSQL runtime engine. You want to combine both. Using the for all keyword instructs the PLSQL engine to bulk bind input collections before sending them to SQL engine. So you want to combine all as a single unit. Then you want to supply it. Point taken? So using bulk binding for all, you can do that activity. So you don't want to separate it as a separate block and you don't want to make it as a separate engine. You want to combine both as a single one. For that I am giving an example, then easily you can analyze. Okay. Bulk binding example it is with for all class. Fine. So I request you all to observe this code block. Generally what way it would be executed. In this you can observe update statements are there. In this we have some procedural statements are there. This is the entire procedure. Sorry, I am sharing the screen. Bulk binding example. You can observe here some SQL statements are there. Some PLSQL statements are there. So if you look into this, some variables you declared. If you consider that you have the data types are the general variables. This is update statement is a pure SQL statement. And overall it is a PLSQL block with a procedure body and with some general SQL statements. Now instead of if you remove for all I in V ID dot first to the last. First to last is the specification. It has to read all values. So that is a repetitive process. The repetitive process is actually a loop construct. Where you will use the loop construct? This loop construct we use in PLSQL code block only. So using bulk binding, you can combine everything as a single statement. You don't want to separate into separate code blocks of the PLSQL as well as SQL. Okay. So when you want to make this as a bulk binding, you can write the statement by defining as it is a bulk collect keyword. Point taken. For all is bulk binding. For all I in V underscore ID dot first to V underscore ID dot last. How many are there? 100 to 110. So it is for all, it is binding the SQL block with the PLSQL code block. All of you please respond if you are clear. So these are all actually the part of SHI. These are all enhancers of your SQL code. So that is the reason I am asking you all to analyze this well. Fine. Any more questions? Bulk binding with arrays, bulk binding with cursors also can be enabled. Okay, all of you. Bulk binding with cursors, bulk binding with arrays can be defined. I have a question in my mind. Till what extent in the level 2 you have completed practicals? Can I know from all of you? It is like code enhancer is the considerations of the PLSQL code in defining the PLSQL code blocks. That is actually the objective we had a discussion so far. Considerations for PLSQL code. Okay. In this, we have certain topics and we have completed binding, bulk binding with all the specifications. But I request you all to analyze the practice here. Creating a package that uses bulk fetch operations, creating a local subprogram to perform an autonomous transaction to audit a business operation. These two are the two different programs you can do. Fine. And the next topic of the chapter is triggers. Right? Now I want to share some schedule to you all. I'm sharing the schedule. Do we have class on Monday? All of you? No. Okay. No class on Monday. No class on Wednesday. Okay. Next class is on same Friday. That is 26th. After that, the schedule again will be 29th and 31st. I will share the schedule. After that, you will have exam. Okay. So you please consider the exam can be on September 2nd. Okay. So this will be the date. Okay. So we will have more 3 classes to complete the remaining part of your PLSQL program. All of you, please respond. Is it clear to you all? Fine. So next class is on 26th. Why no class on Monday and Wednesday? On account of the studio maintenance. Every quarter we allow the studios for maintenance and there will be no classes from SLT. Okay. But I will conduct cloud consultations for you all. I will share the schedule of the cloud consultations in our group so that you all please follow and take the data. And this triggers is the next one. We have 2 levels of the triggers. This is the important one. Everything will be practical oriented. So I request you all to follow the triggers well because it is useful even for interviews also. So triggers of 2 different chapters will be covered in triggers. Okay. So I consider others who are supposed to join. I hope they will join on next class on Friday. I will write the details into group also so that today I don't carry the triggers. Okay. Is it fine with you all? Can I know from all of you? Right. So you all can do one thing by considering your requirements for learning anything extra. You can give me the details wherever you are finding difficulty, and then I have you. Okay, Akshay. Okay, Akshay, fine. So for all the sessions, when I plan to have a cloud consultation for doubt clarifications, you all can ask me in case if you have any specific point to understand once again. Those topics I will cover too. I will discuss in our cloud consultations. Okay. So you please reconnect with the group. I uploaded all in the first book, any of the second book also. Remaining all I will upload by tomorrow, and you please access and start doing practicals. So Monday and Wednesday you can use it for MR practice completely. Only class is not there, but your centers, everything is same. You can do practice there. If you read the courseware, if you copy the program of the courseware, if you do practice well, or if you follow my program, whatever I provide, you can understand every topic practically. Okay? All of you? Can I know from everyone? Click on plus. All from Borivali Center, all from Andheri, Shyambajar. Yes, Akshay. Yes, all of you. Fine. So we will meet again on 26th, the same day, that is Friday, next week Friday, and then we will have 2 classes. The next 2 classes will be on 29th and 31st. Then you will have exam. Okay, exam will be on 2nd, that is September. Right? Fine. So start preparing well and be in connect if you have any help from my side, and I wish you all the best for your well preparation. Cloud consultation details you can collect from your group. I'll upload by tomorrow. Fine. So I request you all to participate in feedback. Yes, Sunny, thank you. I request you all to participate in feedback. Then you all can leave for today. Yes, thank you, Sunny.